Before the presence of malevolence, and well before humans walked the earth, the heavens were a realm of boundless benevolence. Perfection pervaded everything. Each angel shone with brilliant light and held profound respect for their Father, the Creator of all. Among these celestial beings, Lucifer distinguished himself as the most eminent. He was the epitome of perfection, endowed with unparalleled wisdom and beauty. The most intelligent, powerful, and esteemed of all, Lucifer commanded the admiration of all in heaven. He was the crowning glory of God's creation, the very first being fashioned by God's omnipotent hands and the joy of his Creator. God bestowed upon Lucifer unmatched power, making him second in intellect only to himself. However, Lucifer was not without flaw. He remained faultless in his conduct until evil was discovered within him. Thus, he became the origin of all corruption and misery in the world. He transformed into the Prince of Darkness, the tainter of souls, the master of ruin. He assumed the name Satan. His downfall left an indelible mark in heaven. Although the light prevailed, it was forever altered. Like a shattered mirror, paradise would eternally recall the treachery. The tale of Lucifer serves as a solemn reminder that even the brightest of stars can succumb to the shadows. But what led to this transformation? How did tranquility evolve into a breeding ground for malevolence? In the times before this calamity, the heavens were graced with Lucifer, a creation sculpted to embody perfection. He was designated as a guardian cherub. He dwelt on the sacred Mount of God and traversed among the stones ablaze. Heaven is a domain of impeccable order, a celestial framework where each angel has a distinct mission and purpose. At the pinnacle of the celestial hierarchy are the seraphim, resembling living flames, aglow with love and sanctity, ceaselessly chanting, "Holy, holy is the Lord Almighty." Below them are the cherubim, custodians of divine knowledge and defenders of the cosmos's mysteries, serving as barriers against any taint of impurity. Closer to earth, the archangels and angels operate. Archangels like Michael and Gabriel act as messengers during pivotal times, valiant figures who wield their divine mandates as swords. Lastly, the angels nearest to humanity are the guardians of souls, guiding us through life, warding off malevolent forces. In this divine arrangement, God sought to forge something remarkable. From his boundless wisdom and love, he created Lucifer, the morning star, epitomizing perfection, wisdom, and stunning beauty. Lucifer was more than just a figure of allure. He was a leader, a guiding light for other angels. His charm was irresistible, and his presence commanded respect and loyalty. He moved among the angels with unmatched elegance. Seraphim and cherubim hung on his every word, and even Michael, the formidable warrior, held his wisdom in high regard. Lucifer led the heavenly choirs, orchestrating their hymns to the Creator with zeal and intensity. His voice was like a beacon in the night, illuminating their paths in their spiritual expressions and prayers. God did not create evil, but rather something flawless. However, Lucifer, dazzled by his own radiance, allowed pride to burgeon within him. His thirst for glory enveloped him like a covert flame, gradually consuming him. Scripture reveals the onset of his downfall. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. His very gifts led to his undoing. The beauty that once earned admiration became the root of his demise, and the wisdom that once inspired became the instrument of his self-destruction. Consumed by pride, he aspired to surpass his assigned role, to elevate his throne higher than God's stars. He proclaimed in his heart, "I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God." Subsequently, the heavens trembled, rebellion ensued, and peace fragmented like delicate glass. Jesus himself provided a stark account, stating, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." In a moment, Lucifer was expelled into the depths, exiled from the luminance that had once been his abode. His grandeur dimmed, and his splendor was enveloped in obscurity. The morning star was severed, the brilliant celestial entity extinguished. But the question arises, how could this be? Despite his significant influence, Lucifer is infrequently mentioned in the Holy Scriptures. Why is such a pivotal figure so scarcely referenced? Before delving into Lucifer's grand celestial rebellion, it's important to recognize that in Scripture, his character remains elusive. He is discussed only in isolated pieces. The Bible references his tale in sporadic verses penned in metaphorical language. This narrative draws not only from the Bible, but also from additional writings, notably the History of the Angelic World by Father Jose Antonio Fortea, and works by St. Augustine, where Lucifer symbolizes the ambition to surpass the Creator. Augustine observes that Lucifer, blinded by his brilliance, endeavored to match God and was thus cast out, imparting a lasting lesson. Now let's see how Lucifer's soul began to corrupt. Lucifer's journey into darkness commenced with an almost imperceptible flicker of thought. He quietly pondered, "What if my light could shine brighter? What if my glory didn't always have to serve another?" These questions were subtle, almost invisible, yet they planted seeds that grew in the quiet of his mind. He began to envision himself elevated, seated on a throne, receiving adulation, and with each task he undertook, the internal voice urging him onward grew louder. Meanwhile, heaven continued in flawless harmony, but something within Lucifer became increasingly remote each day. The angels started to perceive his transformation. He became contemplative and mysterious. One day, Gabriel approached him and inquired, "Lucifer, brother, what weighs upon your heart? Your light seems restless." Lucifer met his gaze and responded, "There are things even we cannot grasp, dear Gabriel." Gabriel experienced a shiver of disquiet, but Lucifer looked away, concealing any further hints of the turmoil brewing within him. Gradually, Lucifer began to shirk his responsibilities. His voice, once the lead in the heavenly choir, fell silent. The absence of his presence was palpable, like a star vanishing from the sky. In gatherings of praise where he previously led, he now participated half-heartedly, his gaze drifting upwards filled with both pride and resentment. Although heaven operated under clear directives, it was devoid of constraints. God had endowed each angel with the freedom to love and serve flawlessly, including the gift of free will. As Lucifer grappled with his dual impulses of light and shadow, the angels around him sensed an unsettling tension, the precarious balance of his choices. Some, captivated by his magnificence, began to heed his words with newfound intrigue, silently following him as though his light might lead them towards a different fate. One day, a cherubim, noticing his shift, approached him and asked, "Lucifer, have you lost the joy in singing?" With a chill in his smile, Lucifer responded, "I've discovered other interests. Perhaps there is more beyond our current understanding." It was then that Lucifer made his fateful choice. The spark within him ignited into a flame, and that flame roared into a fiery declaration, "I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High." That evening his luminance altered. He was no longer the beacon of adoration, but a torch of raw ambition. The perfect peace of paradise experienced its initial quiver of dissent. His name, Lightbringer, was no mere moniker. He was the herald of dawn, the morning star that rose first, casting light upon the darkness of creation. Each angel hung on his every word with reverence, for Lucifer spoke of God in a manner unmatched by any other. The angels, far from naive, were each a mirror of God's purity, wise and formidable. Yet it was not through frail affections, falsehoods, or hollow vows that Lucifer captivated them, but through his compelling charisma and firm authority. He did not aim to beguile the angels as a deceiver would. Instead, he spoke with fervor and a vision so persuasive that many were drawn to him, seeing him as a transiently illuminating shooting star. Lucifer emerged as a leader of profound brilliance and uniqueness, worthy of allegiance. His virtue, authority, respect, and influence were all well earned. To comprehend the true essence of this masterpiece of God, one would understand why even God himself had once praised his creation in the book of Job. Not even his transgression could mar the divine craftsmanship. Even in his fall, he remained formidable. The divine warning was delivered. God summoned him amid the hallowed stillness. His voice, resonant like a deep river, addressed Lucifer with affection and forbearance. "Lucifer, my son, the epitome of perfection, I perceive your thoughts drifting from me. Your heart harbors notions that estrange you from the eternal." Calm yet radiant, Lucifer faced the Creator and retorted, "Father, did you not create me to seek and comprehend? My greatest wish is to fathom the depths of your works. Is that wrong?" God's sorrow was profound yet restrained. His vast and patient heart recognized the vulnerability inherent in the freedom he had bestowed. Seeds of arrogance, he knew, could sprout even in the most sanctified grounds. "Lucifer," God continued softly, "your quest for knowledge is honorable, but your thoughts are turning inward. You are beguiled by the radiance I endowed you with. You forget that this light is but a reflection of my love, not a power of your own." Lucifer averted his eyes, yet internally a blaze of misunderstanding and pride began to smolder. "My lord, I have desired nothing outside your realm. My light, this light is the gift you granted me. How could I stray from you if I am the embodiment of your will?" God gazed upon him with eyes brimming with infinite tenderness, sensing that Lucifer was beginning to see the splendor of his own glory as its own purpose. Though he had not yet sinned, his love was diminishing. Overflowing with compassion, God reached out to him, saying, "Son, remember the source of all light. Do not let your heart be engulfed by shadows. Turn to me, and your splendor will truly flourish, and together we will achieve greatness beyond any solitary endeavor." However, Lucifer did not feel reassured or peaceful. Instead, he felt his pride pricked, an irritation he could scarcely comprehend, but undeniably felt. Did God not trust his fidelity? Why these persistent cautions? He respectfully withdrew, yet within him an unseen gap was widening. With each passing day, his curiosity to explore and understand deepened, overshadowing his previous contemplations of God. Although he still led the angelic choirs and the angels continued their worship, his heart was now torn. Once more, God reached out to him, saying, "Lucifer, I see the path you are choosing, and it grieves me to see you this way. Your light is dimming into shadow. There is still time, my son. Return, and the love within you will flourish anew." But Lucifer, with a heart now hardened, ignored the plea, focusing instead on his own desires and aspirations for glory. Internally, he began rationalizing his thoughts, questioning, "Don't I deserve more?" God, in his boundless patience, ultimately let him make his own choice. He had extended all conceivable love and mercy. "I will not abandon you," God declared in a final admonition, "but you are free to choose your path." God granted Lucifer a second opportunity, despite the immense sorrow that enveloped him, an ancient, profound grief. He knew that he might lose his most splendid creation. His mercy was boundless, but he had to honor Lucifer's autonomy. Even as Lucifer drifted further away, God thought, "I will continue to love him." All of heaven seemed to pause, anticipating a monumental revelation that would test every celestial being, particularly Lucifer. In his boundless wisdom, God chose to delay this revelation, wishing to give Lucifer time to cultivate humility and reinforce the fidelity within his heart. He addressed Lucifer with a voice resonant with love and concern. "My son, a significant revelation is on the horizon, and it will bring powerful forces. The turmoil within you will be fierce, like a storm cleaving the heavens. You must prepare yourself. Ground yourself in obedience, for the challenge will be formidable." Lucifer responded with sincerity. He knelt before God, his gaze filled with reverence, and from deep within, he spoke with a voice both gentle and resolute. "Father, whatever the test may be, I aim to adhere to your commands. I cannot vow perfect faithfulness, but I pledge my earnest intention to remain devoted. My heart still pulses with your love." These words were genuine. Lucifer spoke from his heart, and within his soul flickered a true aspiration to stay loyal. Yet, simultaneously, in a shadowed recess of his mind, the seed of pride persisted in its growth. He harbored thoughts that set him apart from his peers, musing silently, "Am I not the brightest among us?" God, ever patient, afforded Lucifer yet another opportunity. He delayed the impending revelation once more, giving Lucifer additional time and space to seek humility. "Lucifer, this trial will be formidable, even when it feels as though the winds sweep you astray. Remember your roots, your essence. Remember that all light originates from me," God counseled. The temptation facing Lucifer mirrored the biblical account of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, a terrestrial paradise that echoed the harmony of heaven. God had bestowed upon them everything, a haven of peace and love, but the presence of the tree of knowledge of good and evil stood as a testament to their freedom and their capacity to choose. Just as the serpent enticed Eve with the prospect of divine knowledge, saying, "You will be like God, knowing good and evil," Lucifer encountered a similar folly. In that seductive whisper emerged the desire to ascend beyond his reliance on God. The morning star, once a beacon of dawn, turned away from the illuminating light that had nurtured him, opting instead to venture towards darkness. Free will, God's most cherished gift, also revealed itself as the most critical vulnerability in both Eden and heaven. Pride unlocked the path to ruin, and the perfect serenity was fractured. The virtues that once fortified the angels became tenuous, and for the first time, heaven experienced the shadow. The moment for the great revelation and the supreme test inevitably neared. Despite his infinite patience, God had postponed this decisive moment repeatedly, reaching out to Lucifer directly, whispering to his heart, "My son, the time of revelation draws near. You must ready yourself." It was a paternal caution, a tender appeal for humility. God, who had cherished Lucifer profoundly, believed that love could yet triumph over the pride that was beginning to dim his radiance. But the period of waiting had its limits. God needed to consider all celestial beings, not just Lucifer. A palpable tension enveloped all of heaven, as every angel braced for the impending revelation, filled with a profound sense of anticipation. On that fateful day, God convened his heavenly hosts, summoning angels of every rank to a gathering that lit up the cosmos. A hushed reverence descended, and all of heaven paused in anticipation. The skies parted, revealing God's presence, resplendent in boundless majesty. Then, like gentle thunder, his voice permeated the cosmos. "I will create a material universe," declared the Creator, "a realm where life will thrive, a manifestation of my love and glory in a novel form." Before the assembly, he unfolded the vision of what was to come: stars, galaxies, and planets in harmonious orbit, with Earth destined to support life in its most vibrant expression. The angels watched in awe, their hearts swelling with joy as they witnessed the Creator's grand design. It was an unveiling of wonders, like a dream beyond their wildest imaginations. Yet God's proclamation took an even more profound turn. "I will not only create this universe. On that world I will create beings in my image and likeness. They will be called humans. They will be of flesh and spirit, a blend of heaven and earth. And more, in that same place, I myself will become flesh. The second person of the Trinity, my Son, will take human form. His name will be Jesus Christ, and in that humanity you shall worship me." The silence that followed was deafening. God, the Eternal, was calling upon them to worship him not only as divine, but also in the human guise of Jesus Christ. He was asking them to bow, not just before divine splendor, but also before a human visage, fragile and humble. The angels responded with a tumult of awe and celebration. The notion of the divine light incarnating as a human was a marvel so profound, so sublime, that many were overwhelmed with emotion. It was the epitome of God's plan, a revelation of the deepest, most unfathomable love. They extolled the Creator, feeling honored to partake in such a profound mystery. Yet the mystery of the Incarnation was just the beginning. God also disclosed that humanity would eventually falter, and he would offer himself in sacrifice for them through crucifixion. Among them, one figure stood out for his stillness. Lucifer remained unmoved, silent, and unenthused. His expression seemed distant, as though the light that bathed him couldn't reach his soul. His eyes appeared as deep, dark wells, reflecting the turmoil that brewed within him. In that moment, Lucifer opposed God. Internally, he crumbled at the thought of prostrating before a human, of worshipping God through a mortal vessel, a concept that seemed utterly bewildering and unacceptable to him. He questioned why absolute perfection would choose to diminish itself, why celestial beings should venerate a being of flesh. He had learned of God's plan to create humans who would ultimately falter and corrupt themselves, yet God would still choose to sacrifice for them. The notion of the crucifixion appalled Lucifer. It enraged him that these finite, thankless creatures would not only turn against God, but would also be his killers. He was baffled by the absurdity of it all, watching God's plan unfold with both disbelief and contempt. The profound mystery of the Incarnation, the revelation that the Creator would embody human form in Jesus Christ, stirred a tempest within him. From this tempest arose a piercing question: why not me? For ages, he had been the epitome of beauty, nearest to the throne, the crowning glory of the Creator. Why was he not chosen for this divine union? He felt his brilliance, his splendor, and his wisdom made him deserving of a grander role. Yet God had chosen to humble himself in human form instead. From such reflections, a deep bitterness sprouted within him, wrapping around his heart like a serpent, slowly strangling the love and respect he once harbored for the Father. The pivotal moment came. As God stood encircled by a host of angels, they, one after another, knelt in adoration, embracing the truth of the Incarnation. Yet Lucifer stood upright, his body tense, his eyes locked on the divine throne, his heart seething with quiet malice. Gradually he parted his lips, and with a voice devoid of warmth, spoke a single word that echoed like thunder through the hushed realms of heaven: "No." God regarded him with eyes filled with sorrow and affection, but all Lucifer could feel was scorn. He inhaled deeply and with more intensity declared again, "No." His voice, cold and commanding, rang out like a decree from a sovereign. Those around him trembled, unable to fathom such defiance. How could the most luminous, most exquisite of angels reject the Creator himself? How could he refuse obedience? Lucifer then faced the assembly of angels, his demeanor unnervingly calm, and began to speak. "Do you not see the error? Do you not grasp the absurdity of what God demands of us?" His voice, infused with a somber wisdom, permeated the celestial expanse. He commands us to venerate a lesser being, to bow before mortal flesh. This is not honor, it is degradation. His words, sharp with intellect and persuasion, took root in the hearts of the angels, planting seeds of uncertainty and unsettling the tranquility they once knew. God demands the untenable from us. He pressed on with frosty fervor. It is not we who should acquiesce to this folly. It is God who is mistaken, who has strayed. Why should we submit to something inferior? We, born of pure light, should be exalted, not debased. The angels listened, their minds clouded with confusion. His words carried an air of logic and reason, and among some of the angels, the seeds of rebellion began to sprout. Lucifer, with the charisma that had always defined him, met their gazes one by one, his expression etched with resolute coldness. Thus Lucifer, once the foremost among angels, now embraced his fall. During this pivotal moment, the archangel Michael intervened against the backdrop of angels swayed by doubt, listening to Lucifer's alluring rhetoric of rebellion and reason. Lucifer's arguments were compelling, weaving through their consciousness like a subtle toxin. Is God really asking too much of us? Is it just to demand that we bow before a human, something so evidently inferior? These thoughts, once unthinkable, now cast growing shadows in their luminous souls. As Lucifer spoke, his authoritative charisma resonated powerfully, making it nearly impossible not to be captivated by his direct and assertive delivery, each sentence blending wisdom with rebellion. But amidst his persuasive discourse, a voice erupted with a force that vibrated through the heavens, a declaration filled with simplicity and conviction. Who is like God? This voice came from Michael, a smaller archangel, less renowned but whose purity radiated with unmatched intensity. His call cut through the assembly like a blade. In just 3 words, Michael addressed the core flaw in Lucifer's reasoning. Who is like God? It was a statement of humility, an absolute acknowledgement that none could parallel the Creator, not even the illustrious morning star. The angels quivered. Michael's simple, direct words stirred something deep within them, reviving their awareness of their origins, their allegiance, and their ultimate devotion to their Creator. Lucifer, hearing Michael's defiant call, turned to face him, his eyes blazing with icy fury, yet tinged with astonishment. Until that moment, no one had ever dared to challenge him so directly. Michael advanced, smaller in stature but radiating boldness. "You are arrogant," he declared, his voice booming like thunder, yet steady with unwavering belief. "Your brilliance, Lucifer, has turned into a shadow that seeks to overshadow the Creator. Don't you see that you have elevated yourself above God?" A profound agony struck Lucifer's core, a wound freshly inflicted by Michael's piercing words. His pride and aspirations lay bare, exposed and shamed before all. Rage and humiliation overwhelmed him like tempestuous waves battering his heart. Despite his attempt to appear resolute, the sting of Michael's accusations scorched him. "You understand nothing," Lucifer snapped back, striving to salvage his pride. "Are you so blind to the indignity of what we are being commanded to do?" His voice remained firm, yet the undercurrent of rage and bitterness twisted his tone. Michael gazed at him, his demeanor calm yet unflinching. His soft voice carried the weight of monumental truths. "You miss the essence, dear Lucifer. This is not about humiliation, it's about love. God chooses to manifest in flesh out of love for us, and you reject him because you cannot accept being anything less than supreme. You've lost sight of your role. You've forgotten that you are but a reflection of his magnificence. It is not God who diminishes himself. It is your pride that elevates you beyond your true nature. Lucifer found himself unable to endure the confrontation, as if Michael had held up a mirror, showing him not his former beauty, but a figure marred by bitterness. The reality of that revelation, the love Michael so fervently championed, was too heavy to bear. Silently he turned his back, withdrawing from Michael and the assembly, his posture rigid but inside a tumult of fury raged. In solitude, Lucifer's tears flowed, not from grief, but from sheer anger and a deep-seated hatred stirred by his bruised ego. How could Michael challenge him, the most luminous among them? And yet, somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispered the unbearable truth that Michael might be correct, intensifying his torment. The dawn of rebellion. Can't you see? God demands the impossible from us, he murmured to himself, his voice a mix of low tones and unwavering belief. He expects us to deny our essence, to bow to a lesser creation. Why must we, creatures of pure light, humble ourselves before beings of clay? Should we really worship a God who was crucified, who allowed himself to be marred and bloodied, suffering immeasurably? As Lucifer's doubts spread, more and more angels began to echo his sentiments. Lucifer is right. It defies reason for God to demand such things. Skepticism spread among them. What if God is not truly divine? What if he is just a powerful angel, perhaps just a greater version of Lucifer? These questions sowed seeds of doubt across many hearts. His intense gaze and compelling words resonated deeply with his celestial brethren. Lucifer didn't frame his argument around hatred or violence. Instead, he spoke of dignity, of the inherent nobility in their celestial nature and their right to uphold it. He reached into their hearts, speaking of freedom, autonomy, and the potential to transcend their current existence. He envisioned a new heaven for them, one where no bowing was necessary, a realm where their talents and radiance would be acknowledged without subjugation. God has bestowed upon us the gift of free will, Lucifer declared. So why should we not use it? Why not become who we are meant to be? With each assembly, his following swelled. It was not the lesser angels who joined him, but the most magnificent, the wisest, those to whom God had granted significant power and beauty. Lucifer selected them meticulously, drawing to his cause those who, like him, aspired to rise above their current state. The brightest of heaven's hosts, once regarded as the jewels of creation, now aligned themselves into a formidable rebel faction. These beings, epitomes of celestial perfection, found their brilliance casting shadows as their light twisted into darkness. At one such gathering, Lucifer stood assertively before his growing legion. "We are the future," he thundered, his voice resonating like a storm. "We are the illumination that will not bow. We refuse to let our true nature be overshadowed by an inferior being. If God will not grant us the status we merit, then we shall seize it ourselves." His fervent words ignited a passion in every attendant angel, sending ripples of conviction through their essence. His speeches infused them with doubts about their long-held beliefs. Thus, under Lucifer's command, an army of rebels was forged. Each follower resembled a star that had strayed from its path, their beauty morphed into instruments of insurrection. The angels, once the most devoted, the most esteemed, and the most cherished, now stood as the first ever militant force in the annals of heaven. In their hearts smoldered ambitions, pride, and the allure of a freedom that was, unbeknownst to them, a bondage crafted from their own conceit. The heavens, once a realm of unbroken tranquility and accord, now shivered under the impending storm of conflict. In a secluded sector of heaven, Michael stood resolute and unwavering, the diminutive archangel who had bravely challenged Lucifer. Brandishing his sword aloft, he once again proclaimed, "Who is like God?" This call, potent in its simplicity, roused those who harbored any remaining doubts. Michael, embodying both profound humility and formidable strength, positioned himself at the forefront against Lucifer's formidable legions, ready to safeguard the honor of the Creator. Despite knowing his forces were outmatched by the numerous and mighty followers of Lucifer, his resolve remained unshaken. His faith served as his armor, his fidelity as his armament. Thus, the ultimate confrontation between light and darkness unfolded in heaven. Lucifer, once celebrated as the most radiant among angels, the morning star, had turned his brilliance into a revolt that would eternally alter the annals of creation. The initial conflict was a fraternal strife, and with every strike, every encounter, the fabric of the heavens fractured and the cosmos paused in anticipation. The battle commenced with an intensity that rattled heaven's very core. On one side, Lucifer led his rebellious forces, his magnificence now enshrouded in gloom, his radiance warped into malevolence. Opposing him stood the loyalist angels, rallied by Michael, the diminutive archangel who had ascended with steely fortitude, his faith unyielding, brimming with humility and valor. What was once a realm of tranquility and concord transformed into a spectacular arena of conflict, a clash of light against shadow, fidelity against revolt. The combatants engaged fiercely, their strikes and parries igniting the heavens with bursts of light that resembled meteor showers, painting a fierce tableau of celestial defiance. The fallen angels, previously celebrated for their beauty and might, were now embroiled in fierce conflict. The skies raged with relentless fury as the loyal angels fought with a calm resolve, driven by their devotion and love for the Creator. At the forefront of this celestial army, Michael, the least of the archangels in rank, led his brethren with a passion that resonated across the cosmos, proclaiming, "Who is like God?" Michael's true power was not derived from his status or brilliance, but from his unwavering faith. He did not fight for personal honor or vanity, but out of a belief in the virtues of goodness, light, and truth. This conviction empowered him immensely, making him stronger with every moment. The loyal angels were bolstered by a divine force, a reminder that they were supported by the Creator himself, which lent them a strength beyond any worldly might. Lucifer, consumed by fury, attempted to overpower Michael. He ascended, his wings casting a deep shadow over those who gazed at him, declaring, "I was the first, I am the true light." Yet his proclamations rang hollow, a mere shadow of his former glory. The light within him had twisted into darkness, and though his power was still great, it could not overshadow the pure truth that Michael wielded like a steadfast flame. The battle intensified, and the very heavens seemed to suffer from the strife. Angels not engaged in combat watched with a mixture of awe and grief, burdened by the heavy reality of the rebellion. The serenity that was once the foundation of heaven was now broken, and the perfect order was on the verge of collapse. Nonetheless, in the midst of ruin, hope persisted. The faith and divine love of the loyal angels were evident in every strike and advance they made against Lucifer and his cohorts. Finally, the side of righteousness emerged victorious. Michael, with his sword aloft, delivered the decisive blow with the words, "By God's power, fall, Lucifer." At that instant, the darkness shattered, and the once formidable rebellion started to disintegrate. The fallen angels, constituting a third of all celestial beings, were expelled, cast down like meteors from the heavens. Lucifer was transformed into Satan, and along with his adherents was cast into the depths of the abyss. A profound silence settled over heaven, a quietude tinged with the grief of a loss beyond repair. The conflict had inflicted deep wounds, a lasting affliction in paradise that only love and time could mend. The loyal angels bore the heaviness of the conflict in their hearts, but were comforted by the knowledge that light had overcome, truth, faith, and hope, eternal virtues that remain unconquerable. In this triumph, heaven reaffirmed an ageless truth. Good invariably overcomes evil, not through might or aggression, but because goodness is inherently divine, a radiance undimmable by any shadow. Pride, malice, and ambition might wage a fierce battle, yet they are but transient against the enduring purity of love and loyalty. With the battle concluded, heaven, despite its scars, sustained its tranquility. Michael's declaration, "Who is like God?" now resonated throughout every expanse of the universe, standing as an unshakable and perpetual truth, a testament to the boundless glory of God and the unparalleled supremacy of his love over all else. Heaven's gates opened wide to expel the dissenters. Lucifer, previously celebrated as the morning star, was cast into a deep, dark abyss along with his followers, removed far from the divine light. As they were expelled, even heaven seemed to shudder. The angels, once resplendent and mighty, akin to the brightness of stars, plummeted like outcast meteors, banished to a netherworld of chaos and shadows, a realm of endless exile where the radiance of God was neither visible nor felt. Now known as Satan, Lucifer experienced the impact of his descent as if seared by a scalding iron. The complete severance from God, from the light and serenity of heaven, inflicted a torment more excruciating than any physical affliction. The domain to which he and his followers were condemned wasn't the ultimate hell, but rather a state of turmoil and profound spiritual isolation, a region unreachable by peace and glory. This place mirrored a broken dream, a distorted reflection of the celestial order, completely severed from sanctity. For Satan, this banishment marked the forfeiture of his original purpose. However, driven by pride and fury, his enmity took on a new objective. If he could no longer share in God's glory, he resolved to obliterate it wherever it might exist. In the depths of his despair, his attention shifted towards the creation, the physical world that God had pledged to bring into existence. In his distorted mind, a plan began to form. If heaven was denied to him, he would taint God's most cherished creation, humanity. The thought of dragging humans, created in God's likeness, into darkness filled him with a grim sense of satisfaction. Humans had usurped his place beside God. Their inherent love and goodness, the very things he despised, would now become the focus of his wrath. His purpose was unmistakable. If he and his rebel angels could not bask in God's presence, then neither should humans. This loathing and bitterness evolved into a crusade, a burning urge to undermine the divine creation and mar the innocence of humanity. Lucifer's banishment, along with his legion of fallen angels, tipped the scales of good and evil in the universe. From that point on, evil existed not merely as a lack of goodness, but as a deliberate and structured force. The demons, under Satan's command, set out to influence the physical world, to lead humans astray, to fuel feelings of pride, envy, and despair, the very emotions that had precipitated their fall. God, in his love and fairness, permitted this separation. The expulsion was not only a punishment, but a manifestation of divine justice. The angels who chose rebellion and spurned God's love and sanctity were no longer able to reside in his presence. God's love remained steadfast, yet his justice necessitated a balance. Those who turned away from the light could no longer revel in its warmth. In this act, the balance between God's love and justice was flawlessly upheld. Justice mandated their separation, yet love still allowed the fallen to exist, though in a darkness they chose for themselves. The saga of Lucifer, now Satan, doesn't conclude with his banishment, but instead continues through the ongoing interplay of good and evil in the world. His fall, his enmity, his urge to defile humanity persist in every temptation and spiritual conflict that humans encounter. Evil attempts to permeate the human spirit, its liberty, its aspiration for greatness, yet this influence is constrained, and ultimately, the goodness that emanates from God prevails. The conflict between good and evil that originated in heaven now manifests on earth, within the hearts of all people. Satan and his minions strive to extinguish the light within every soul, yet God's grace, love, and justice persistently shine through, underscoring the truth that though evil may be vocal and persistent, goodness will ultimately prevail. The downfall of Lucifer marked the onset of an everlasting struggle, a testament to the undeniable power of goodness, light, and divine love. Just as in heaven, so on earth, the question posed by Michael remains poignant. Who is like God? Since his banishment, Lucifer, now known as Satan, has been driven by a single goal: to degrade the creation he was once part of. The scriptures detail various instances where Satan emerges as the tempter, targeting not just ordinary people, but pivotal figures in religious history. A defining episode is depicted in the New Testament when Satan tries to tempt Jesus during his time in the wilderness. After fasting for 40 days and nights, Jesus encounters Satan, who tempts him with offers of sustenance, safety, and sovereignty. Satan challenges, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become bread." He then takes Jesus to the highest point of the temple, urging him to jump and let angels catch him to prove his divinity. Lastly, Satan presents Jesus with a vision of all the world's kingdoms, promising them in return for worship, aiming to divert the adoration due only to God. Jesus' responses to each temptation underscore his profound spiritual resilience and unwavering trust in God. He decisively rebuffs each of Satan's offers, citing scripture to reaffirm that true power and glory are God's alone. This interaction highlights more than a simple clash. It showcases the strength of faith and humility in resisting even the most enticing temptations. Jesus exemplifies that genuine power is not found in miracles or earthly riches, but in steadfast obedience and devotion to God. Another narrative of trial is found in the story of Job. In the book of Job, Satan presents himself before God and with a blend of arrogance and challenge, questions, "Does Job fear God for no reason?" Here, Satan not only tests Job's loyalty, but also attempts to undermine the integrity of faith itself. He insinuates that Job's piety is conditional, dependent only on divine blessings. This accusation is a direct challenge to the essence of love and faith, suggesting that no one, not even a devout man like Job, could remain faithful under extreme adversity. Job's story unveils Satan's ability to attack faith at its foundation by inflicting suffering and despair. Yet, Job's reaction, marked by pain and doubt, ultimately serves as a powerful lesson in spiritual fortitude. Through his perseverance, Job demonstrates that faith is not a mere reciprocation to good fortune, but a profound, enduring allegiance that withstands great trials. Despite Satan's efforts, Job's steadfast faith stands as a timeless testament to the power of resisting evil and maintaining trust in God. Additionally, another significant instance of Satan's meddling occurs in the Garden of Eden. In this idyllic setting, crafted by God's boundless love for human beginnings, Lucifer perceived an opportunity to erode the innocence of the first humans, Adam and Eve, making them the inaugural victims of his revolt against the Creator. Assuming the guise of a serpent, a creature synonymous with deceit and treachery, he approached Eve with enticing and dubious phrases. "Has God indeed stated that you cannot eat from any tree in the garden?" He initiated with a question, sowing a seed of mistrust. His method was not brute force, but rather a soft murmur that seeped into Eve's heart like a venom. Lucifer mastered the art of turning a mere whim into an overwhelming compulsion, morphing uncertainty into decisive action. "You will become like God, knowing good and evil." This assertion doomed mankind. Adam and Eve, lured by the prospect of transcending their mortal limits and attaining godliness without heeding their Maker, succumbed, plunging themselves and the world into the depths of sin. With this singular act of temptation, Lucifer fulfilled his dark ambition from the depths, to sever creation from its creator, introducing heavenly strife into the human spirit. The influence of Lucifer persists. His presence continuously stirs conflict in human lives. Every temptation, every moment of hesitation, mirrors that initial decision in Eden, alongside the trials encountered by Job and Jesus. Evil resonates as a relic of that ancient revolt, a voice incessantly attempting to disconnect us from the essence of all that is good. Yet, through each biblical narrative, through every tale of defiance, we are reassured that virtue ultimately prevails, that faith and love offer the remedy to enmity and despair. In the book of Revelation, the Bible outlines the ultimate destiny and sinister role of Satan in the end times. Filled with vivid imagery and prophecies, it depicts Satan as the great dragon, the formidable enemy of both humanity and God, intent on defiling creation to the very end. The author of Revelation, John, shares a vision of the final days, a time when evil reaches its peak and the struggle between good and evil escalates unprecedentedly. In this narrative, Satan is portrayed as the ancient serpent, once known as Lucifer the morning star, now transformed into a mighty dragon symbolizing evil and the ruinous deception he has exercised since his downfall. This ancient serpent, the originator of humanity's first sin in Eden, aims to obliterate all remaining virtue and light at the world's end. Revelation talks of a time of great tribulation, marked by disasters and trials, dividing humanity between followers of God and those deceived by evil. Here, Satan takes on his role as the great deceiver, who has always endeavored to disconnect humanity from God. As the end approaches, he redoubles his efforts, employing every tactic at his disposal to fulfill his agenda of devastation and deceit. He is depicted as the accuser of the faithful, relentlessly attempting to divert the righteous, planting seeds of doubt, temptation, and despair. John's vision culminates with Satan confronting Michael and the armies of heaven in a final showdown. This monumental clash continues the celestial war that commenced with Lucifer's expulsion from heaven. As time reaches its zenith, the conflict escalates to its most intense phase. Revelation further depicts Satan as the architect behind the beast and the false prophet, nefarious entities that arise on earth to foster chaos and promote idol worship. Through these agents, Satan strives to erect a kingdom that stands in direct opposition to God's sovereignty. This ersatz empire, a perverse mimicry of the divine kingdom, represents Satan's desire to be revered as a deity, leading to the ultimate degradation of creation. Here, his deepest aspiration emerges: to seize the glory he has always coveted, even if it means resorting to deceit and oppression. Revelation culminates with a depiction of God's definitive victory over evil. Following the intense tribulation and the climactic battle, Satan is overcome, and the reign of evil is dismantled for all time. In a vivid symbolic act, Satan is apprehended and cast into the lake of burning sulfur, a place of eternal torment where he is rendered incapable of harming humanity or affecting creation any further. This act of consummate justice confirms Satan's unavoidable doom and that of his acolytes, an eternity irrevocably severed from God's magnificence. Satan's demise in Revelation marks the ultimate affirmation of God's supremacy over evil. In his perfect balance of love and justice, God permits evil to exist only to a certain extent, allowing humanity the liberty to choose their path. Yet, at the conclusion of all things, when every trial has been endured and every choice has been made, evil is conclusively defeated. This ultimate outcome is not merely the result of Satan's misdeeds, but a strong reaffirmation of God's sovereign power over all of creation. In his final defeat, Satan epitomizes the collapse of a rebellion, a once bright light that, despite its ambition and hatred, could never eclipse the love and goodness at the heart of existence. The vanquishing of Satan in Revelation carries deep significance for the course and fate of humanity. It underscores that although evil may appear formidable, its duration is finite and its influence is meager compared to the perpetual nature of God. Goodness prevails not solely through might, but because it is inherently linked to truth, justice, and love. The ultimate conflict between good and evil serves as a testament to the divine assurance of restoration and redemption for those who opt for light over darkness. In contemporary times, the narrative of Revelation serves as a cautionary tale that, although Satan may persist in his efforts to mislead humanity, his destiny is predetermined, his capabilities are confined, and his insurrection is doomed to failure. The tale of his downfall and subsequent defeat in the end times reinforces the optimism that righteousness, irrespective of the challenges it faces, will invariably triumph. Faith, hope, and endurance are the spiritual tools that draw us nearer to God, reinforcing that the ultimate victory belongs to the forces of good, and ensuring that God's light will eternally illuminate the cosmos. If you're captivated by the story of Lucifer's downfall, you'll definitely want to explore the intriguing narratives of the 10 prophecies found in the book of Revelation. These prophecies detail Lucifer's ultimate end and his involvement in the concluding events of the cosmic battle between good and evil. They shed light on Satan's final desperate efforts to corrupt the world. Discover how Lucifer's rebellion not only shaped his own fate, but also is intricately linked to humanity's future and the definitive victory of divine justice. Prepare to delve into the resolution of a saga that started with a descent and culminates in a profound revelation. Click the video on screen to watch. This is something you won't want to miss.